Hey everyone, welcome to 1732 Streaming's Freedom Circuit. I'm JK. Today we're going to go over some stuff. I haven't streamed in about 7 days, so we got a lot to catch up on. And yeah, let's go ahead and get this started. My brother will probably be in the chat, so if you happen to pop in there and you can go back and forth with him, he might, if I make some mistakes or something with maybe some information, he might correct me or he might just engage with you guys. But yeah, if you don't mind, go ahead and hop in that chat with him. And also, if you don't mind, do me a favor, subscribe. I need subscribers on Rumble, Twitch, YouTube. I'd really like them on Rumble. I prefer Rumble. You can follow me at 1732 Streaming, on Twitch, JK1732A, and on YouTube at 1732 Streaming. So yeah, do me a favor, do that. And also throughout the day, leave a comment, drop some chats. I appreciate it. Like I said, my brother's going to be watching this. So he'll interact with you guys, and I'll try to hop in there too if I can. If you go back and watch this video, definitely leave a comment. It helps us out as creators. I would really, really appreciate it. So let's go ahead and jump right into it today. All right, so the first thing, now don't worry, we're going to get to the government shutdown probably in a little bit here towards the end of the podcast. Let's go into Tylenol. So as we all know, and if you don't know, President Trump, RFK Jr., came on, did a conference in the White House saying that Tylenol is not recommended for pregnant women because there could be some links to autism. And of course, as you can imagine, the left went absolutely nuts. They went crazy. Oh gosh, if you're listening to the Cheeto and whatever they call RFK, you're crazy. They don't know anything about healthcare. So, well, I'm going to prove you wrong here a little bit. Tylenol itself came out in 2017, I believe. Yeah, 2017, stating that it should not be taken during pregnancy. So let's look at that here real quick. I have that right here for you guys. There it is right there. So the date on that is 3/7/17. That is verified. That was posted by Tylenol. Now, that does not link it specifically to autism. I will grant you that. However, we're going to get into it here in just a second. It states that you should not take Tylenol while you are pregnant. Okay. Now, I find this very interesting. And the reason I find it interesting is because if you go to Tylenol's website now, I went to it the other day, and I'm sorry I didn't get a clip of it. You can go look at it yourself. I highly recommend it. It now says that, there are no links to autism, and under the, care of a care provider, you can use Tylenol. So, it's kind of weird that they came out. Basically, it kind of seems like they're starting to promote Tylenol now that that came out. But here you go, 2017, right here on the screen. You can see it over there. They said don't take it when you're pregnant. We're going to talk about Trump derangement syndrome quite a bit today. So, and this is one of the things. All of a sudden, after that conference, all of these people on TikTok, TikTok, social media platforms, just across the board, started just fistfuls of Tylenol, shoving them in their mouth and taking them just to, I guess, protest or, just go against whatever the president says. That is Trump derangement syndrome. That is crazy. If you're pregnant, you're endangering your child by doing that. That is absolutely ridiculous. So basically what you're doing is, just because you don't like the president, you are endangering your child. That is absolutely nuts. I don't know why somebody would do that. And the funny thing is, it wasn't the Trump administration that put out this information. They are only giving you the information that came from Harvard. Yeah, that's right-wing conservatism, right? Harvard. I'm winking right now because that is not the case. Harvard put out a metadata data analysis, and I encourage you to go look at it yourself. I've gone through and looked at it, so I encourage you to do it as well, stating that there could be some links. Now, they said could be. They didn't say that there was, to be fair, but there could be links to autism with Tylenol and the usage of Tylenol. So, guys, go look it up yourself. Make your own opinion. I want you to put on a blindfold and pretend that you didn't hear it from President Trump. If you're on the left side, if you're on the right side, you're on board. We're good. If you're on the left, put your blinds on, read the data, and sit there and think to yourself, if President Trump didn't say it, would I follow this recommendation? Okay. Or if Joe Biden came out and said, don't take Tylenol, would you take it? So, go look at that yourself. And it'd be good to mention that only a year ago you guys were more than happy to listen. Actually, a year ago, all the way. Let's go back to COVID. You guys were happy to listen to the government when they were putting out all kinds of things about mask mandates and all that stuff. Uh, why do you not trust the government now? I'm talking to the left right now. The right, we've never trusted the government. Period. Ever, ever, ever. So why do you not trust the government now? Is it because you truly believe that, or is it because Orange Man bad? You need to have a serious conversation with yourself and figure that out. So that's the update we have on Tylenol. So I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you exactly what to do. That's something you have to come to yourself. But if I pretended for a moment, and if I was on the left, I could do it any day. But if I pretended for a moment that I was a pregnant female right now, I probably wouldn't take Tylenol because I wouldn't want to endanger, even take a 1% chance risk, right? I wouldn't even want to take that risk to where there could be autism or other medical conditions just because I wanted to take a mild pain reliever. So, keep that in mind, guys. So let's go on to the next subject here. ICE shooting. So the one that was in Texas. Um, Admittedly, I don't know a whole lot about that. I was watching it live while I was at work. I've gone through and gathered some information on it. There's still not a lot of information on it right now on either side, left or right. I watch a lot of right-leaning content, and they don't have a lot of information, and they're even saying that they don't have a lot of information on it right now. There's a couple things that this individual was said to be seen in some pictures wearing, Trump shirts and stuff like that. That's not verified, but if it's true, it's true. What we do know is that the bullets had anti-ice written on them. And, to be honest with you, if it turns out that it's a right-wing extremist, uh, I'm here to tell you guys, the people on the right, we're going to condemn that because that's not holding to our values. And they might call themselves a right wing extremist or a conservative, but they absolutely are not because they do not hold our values. I don't have a lot of information on that, so I'm not going to go any more into that. If you happen to have some information on that, do me a favor and drop that in the comment section for me. I'd really appreciate it, and I'd be happy to bring it up on the next stream. So moving on to the next. All right, so here's another one I don't have a lot of information on. The church shooting in Michigan. That was going on for a couple of days. Obviously, that was the big news at the time. Um, and what we do know is that this individual drove his car into a church, killing four and then killing himself. It turns out he was a former Marine. We don't know too much about his service yet. And at one point, now this information comes from Fox News. Again, do your own research. Don't take my word for it. But this individual was apparently at one time in a relationship with Mormons. And then at some point, according to his neighbors, family, friends, according to the article that I read, he eventually started to feel strongly against Mormons. Don't know exactly what that was about. That article didn't go into detail. Again, drop some comments if you happen to know anything else, and I'd be happy to update it later on. There are a couple of even Fox News put this out there that it was said that he had a Trump sign on, I believe, on his fence, but Fox News themselves drove out to the house, couldn't find the sign. Was there a sign there? Possibly. Maybe, maybe not. We honestly don't know. But again, once again, if this turns out to be a Trump supporter that committed this violence, then of course, we on the right are going to do the right thing and condemn that individual. We're not going to go out and kill people we don't disagree with. So, just make sure that you guys do your own research, come to your own opinions, and if they come out and tell us that this was a right winger, or if this was a Trump supporter, or if it was a Joe Biden supporter, no matter what they are, we will update you when we get it, no matter what that turns out to be. My personal opinion, this is all opinion right here. Just reading that article, kind of seems like that he had this relationship with this Mormon girlfriend. And I don't know, kind of looks like maybe something went bad somewhere in there, whether that was relationship related, religious related, I don't know, but it just seems like that this wasn't really political violence. This was a man who, just something snapped and he did something incredibly bad. So that's all we know about that right now. Um, and let's talk about political violence right now. I was actually watching Louder with Crowder, who I recommend you watch. He dropped his Change My Mind segment today. He hasn't done one in a couple years because of violence against him. And I've seen a ton of his Change My Mind segments. And there is an awful lot of people trying to hurt him when he does these segments. But after the Charlie Kirk shooting, he decided he wanted to go back out and he wanted to start this up again because he felt it was the right thing to do. And you can watch his video. He's got tons of security around him. He's sitting behind bulletproof glass. And some of the discussion that's happening is he's talking about left-wing violence right now, and why saying we should all tone it down is not the right thing to say. Even if the two examples I gave you earlier turn out to be Trump supporters or right-wingers or whatever, it's still left-wing violence 100 to 1, for us. We have two examples right now, but if we really dove into it and not that hard, and we've talked about some of it here, you would find a lot more political violence on the left. So that's why discussion is important. We've talked about that in numerous podcasts. So, and the point was made, he even made a comment, which is kind of funny because I'm starting to do these little podcasts here and I don't have a large following by any stretch of the imagination. But he says, for conservatives, we are one successful video away from being hunted. Charlie Kirk was hunted. That's what happened to him. He was hunted and then he was assassinated. That is not the case for the left. One successful video away and they're good to go. But for us, we are one successful video away or one trending comment away from being a target and being hunted. He's right. He's absolutely right. And that's why I think discussion is important and why we need to keep trying to move forward with these discussions. Drop some comments. Let me know what you feel about that. And I really appreciate it. Also, do me a favor, we're going to go ahead and do this real quick. Subscribe. I need subscribers in the worst way. Share with your friends. I really would appreciate it. And then also, again, drop comments. It helps creators like myself, try to grow this platform. So let's see here. Let's move on to the next thing. All right, here's the biggest topic of today. So now we're getting caught up with the week that we missed. The government shutdown happened last night at midnight. The government shutdown. Democrats just would not, come to the table, and they had outrageous demands. The biggest reason that the Republicans are not voting with them or negotiating with them, essentially, is because of the $1.5 trillion. This source comes from Newsmax. $1.5 trillion that the Democrats want for illegal immigrant health care. I don't know about you. I already pay high premiums. It's already way too expensive for me to go to the doctor. Why are we giving free health care to people that are in this country illegally? That is absolutely insane. That is ridiculous. It costs us money. And I have some videos that I'm going to show you guys here in a little bit to kind of prove my point here, how we're going back to Trump derangement syndrome. The last two Democratic presidents, Bill Clinton and Obama, both had stances against illegal immigration. And guess what? It was to deport them and have less illegal immigration in the United States because of cost and because of violence and because of gangs. And I'll show you those videos in here in just a little bit. Trump derangement syndrome. Just because Trump's saying it now, it is bad. It wasn't bad back then. So why is it bad now? It's weird, right? So this government shutdown, Republicans want to continue resolution for the next 7 weeks, the continuing resolution. The Democrats, and the funny thing is the money for illegal healthcare isn't even supposed to really be discussed until the next budget. I believe they said it was in December. So this continuing resolution actually has nothing to do with that. The continuing resolution is actually Biden's budget. We're still operating on his budget. So why aren't they okay with that? That's really weird. Why aren't they, willing to at least do the continuing resolution and get the government through the next 7 weeks? Now, I personally have no problem with the government being shut down myself. I mean, I'm not going to see any changes. I mean, I'm sure if I owe taxes, which I don't, but if I owe taxes, I'm sure they still come over me after me, even though the government is shut down. So, it's a partial shutdown. Now, some of the things that we need to consider here. This is a win-win for the administration, and I'll tell you why. Whether it didn't shut down or whether it shuts down, this is a win-win. You shut the government down, and now the administration has said that they're going to make lots of layoffs within the federal government, which is, by the way, if you're a conservative, you voted for that anyways, right? So again, it's a win-win. Get rid of some of that government waste. So if it shuts down, they are able to do that. If it doesn't shut down, then the government keeps going and they're still able to negotiate. So this is, really a win-win. The only people that come out looking bad about this right now are the Democrats, because now the Democrats are holding up soldiers' pay, some other essential services such as, I've forgotten the list of it, soldiers' pay, and then there was some other, it wasn't Medicaid because Medicaid and Medicare still continue on. I have to go back and find it, but I mean, the point is, I mean, the soldiers' pay is enough, right? I mean, these guys need to get paid. These guys are out here defending our freedom every single day, and now we're holding up their pay. And it's the Democrats that are doing it. It's not the Republicans. The Democrats didn't have a problem with this budget, last year because it was Biden's budget. Now they have a problem with it. So again, Trump derangement syndrome. I probably should have named the episode Trump derangement syndrome, to be completely honest with you, because everything we're talking about is that's what it is. So, you know, that's my take on that right now. And clearly it was a tactic for the Democrats just to get illegals free health care. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous. So here, let's do this. Let's take a look at this clip here real quick. I'm going to show you Bill Clinton. We're going to go ahead and listen to him real quick.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace, as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
Well, how about that? And you can hear everybody in the chamber there clapping, and it sounds like there are enough claps for it to be essentially both sides, Republican and Democrat. So at one point we both agreed on this. So what has changed? The only thing that's changed is President Trump is now president. So Trump derangement syndrome. There it is again. Let's look at this clip here real quick with former President Obama. Let me pull that up for you real quick. And I'm really sorry. I hear my dog going crazy right now, and I don't know what he's going crazy about. Hopefully it's not a terrorist trying to break into my house. Let's see here. Let's pull that up real quick. Sorry, that was Bill Clinton. Here you go.
Tonight, I'm announcing those actions. First, we'll build on our progress at the border with additional resources for our law enforcement personnel, so that they can stem the flow of illegal crossings and speed the return of those who do cross over. Second, I'll make it easier and faster for high-skilled immigrants graduates, and entrepreneurs to stay and contribute to our economy, as so many business leaders have proposed. Third, we'll take steps to deal responsibly with the millions of undocumented immigrants who already live in our country. I want to say more about this third issue because it generates the most passion and controversy. Even as we are a nation of immigrants, we're also a nation of laws. Undocumented workers broke our immigration laws, and I believe that they must be held accountable, especially those who may be dangerous. That's why over the past 6 years, deportations of criminals are up 80%.
Okay, guys, how about that? Your Lord and Savior Obama, if you're on the left, your golden child, was also not a huge fan of illegal immigration. Now, to be fair, if you watch the full video, I encourage you to do so. Make your own opinions. He does go on to say something along the lines of, these are people that go to church with us and stuff like that. Indicating that maybe these people that are here illegally and not violent should have a path to citizenship. So, but again, just because it is Donald Trump, it's bad. But the last two Democrat presidents, it was good. So, folks, you really need to take your bias out of this and understand what's actually good for this country, what's good for your children, what's good for you at the end of the day. Because if you're a leftist, you're selfish for the most part. So if you think about what's good for yourself, that helps too. So you really need to think about that. You need to think about what's going to happen to you, what would happen if more illegals were continuing to come into this country and stuff like that. Our healthcare costs go up. Just for one thing simply just goes way up. So, Trump derangement syndrome, man, it is a real thing. And I really need you guys to not be jackasses and look at it from a neutral point of view. I am very obviously conservative. But when I go through and I look at these articles, like earlier on we were talking about Tylenol, I look at that, I actually, read the research and I formulate my own opinion. And my own opinion right now is Tylenol is not good for, pregnant mothers, based on what Harvard has said and what Tylenol said in 2017. So I mean, you got to figure it out for yourself, folks. I can't help you if you're being a jackass and just don't like the orange man. I can't help you with that. So, but yeah, so that's today's podcast, guys. We're pretty much right at 30 minutes. I'd like to do longer shows with you guys as time goes on. So do me a favor and leave a comment. Let me know what we should be talking about. And also, by the way, I'm going to give a shout out to my brother, Mr. Seepy. He helped me out with some of this. He's doing some collaboration with me on the back end, making sure that I have the right sources. The videos were actually his idea, so kudos to him. But yeah, drop a comment and let him know that you really appreciate it, because I really want to try to give you guys some good content that actually means something. And do me a big favor and subscribe, like and subscribe. Follow us on Rumble, 1732 Streaming, on Twitch, JK1732A, and on YouTube at 1732 Streaming. But yeah, in the meantime, guys, I'll catch up with y'all, later on. I'll try to do another show. I might do something tomorrow. I don't know. It just kind of depends on what the news world is doing. Definitely going to probably be doing some Fortnite streams either today or tomorrow, and I'll try to get my brother on there with me. So, but yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Y'all have a good one. Stay safe. Keep your head on a swivel. Peace.